Good morning, everyone. Welcome to ZatZoom. Hope you've had a great week and you're ready for a restful weekend. We're glad that you're here. How's
Good
everybody
morning.
doing?
Good. How are you doing today, Mary?
I'm doing good, thank you. How
Awesome.
was everyone else?
We're all doing
Good.
great.
I'm sad because my daughter was here for 5 weeks and she left this morning, and I'm a little bit off because my time is off. I had to get up and say goodbye to her at 6:30 this morning, and then I couldn't go back to sleep, and I'm just off, but I'm going to get back on. But it's hard. I don't miss her yet because she just left, but I know I'm going to miss her presence, because she adds so much. But I'm glad she's going back to her life, and I'm glad she's healthy and doing well. So, all right. Well, today we're going to be talking about breast cancer again. Is Breast Cancer Awareness Week, or month rather. And we have some guest speakers that we hope will show up. I don't know who's going to pop in and who's not. I know one of my friends, Janet, is going to pop in. She's just running late because she was at an appointment and they got out late. So she'll be popping in. Irene is supposed to join us, maybe someone else. And we also have a recorded story from another oiler in our group. You're friends with her. I'm acquaintances.
I've known Mandy for probably the last 6 or 7 years. I actually met her at Stacy's right when I got started using oils before I became a brand partner. And they invited me to the meeting there that Stacy had. And that's when I met Mandy. And so she's just a very pleasant woman to work with. I mean, she's awesome. She doesn't live too far. So I get to see her, anytime we're doing oily things together. And when we're not.
And last week we had a great discussion with Sherry Albert, Thermography for Life. Unfortunately, Sherry can't be with us this week. She was going to join us, but her mom is in the hospital. So we can send prayers out to her and her family and her mom and hope for a quick recovery. I don't know the nature of it, but she let me know she couldn't make it today. So we'll just play it by ear and see what happens as people pop in. And what's in your diffuser?
I have just frankincense going today, and I love it. I did it because of the breast cancer awareness and how good frankincense, there's studies that frankincense does help with issues with cancer. So although I didn't apply it topically, I do have it in my diffuser and I'm breathing it in. So it's also helping my lungs, right?
I like it. I did not pick anything for the theme today, but I looked at what I had on my next to my diffuser over there, and I picked up grapefruit, which is one of my favorites because it's so fresh. And then I was like, what can I put with it today? And there was a bottle of Highest Potential. So I thought that would be a good combo, and it is. It smells really good together. And so I'm going to be hoping to reach my highest potential or come close today as we start. So, Mary, anything new or your favorite?
Cinnamon and orange and clove.
You added clove. Nice.
I
That sounds
added
good.
clove for a little hint of spice or whatever.
Yeah, that has a lot of great properties, a lot of antiseptic type properties for cleaning and all. So it's one of the main ingredients in thieves. And it's great for teeth. At one point, I'm not doing this anymore, but I used to use the Thieves Aroma Bright toothpaste, and then add a drop of clove and a drop of orange to the toothpaste and brush my teeth with that. And it really cleans your teeth really well. It's a little bit strong, so you have to be careful about that and not put too much. But when you put the orange on there, it kind of mutes it a little bit.
Yeah, clove, doesn't it have also a little bit of antibacterial type benefits to it?
Yeah,
I believe
think
it
so.
does.
yeah. I always think of that as
Little
one that
green.
cleans out and. Yep.
Good, because I need to be cleaned out.
But I love the way it smells. And especially this time of year. We don't get much fall down here, so I have to create it where I want it with decorations and pumpkins and fall spices and fall scents. So, all right. Well, while we're waiting for some of our guests to pop in, let's talk about next week. Mary, did you get your book?
I did get my book. I haven't had a chance to open it, but I've got it.
It's so we are going to be reading this book. I've read some of it. You can see how far I've gotten, but that's not very much. And it's been so long that I'm going to have to start over again. So I'm fresh. I think the reading schedule that I came up with, and I did that today so I could share it with you, and I'll post it in the Living Well and Wise group. I think it's doable. It's not more than like 20 to 30 pages each time. Later in December, it gets a little heftier because we just want to finish before Christmas. But when we're talking about those different areas of rest, we're only going to hit 2 per week so that we can give, 20 minutes to each one at least, probably a little bit more. But so I'll share that right now. It's just so you can see. Share screen. There it is. So for next week, just through page 22, and I'm not interested in like the how to use this book or the foreword. You can read that if you want, but we'll mostly discuss those first 2 chapters. And then we will take 2 so this is sort of an intro for next week, and then there's 2 areas of rest, 2 areas of rest, 2 areas of rest, 2 areas of rest. And then it's sort of lumped in the last 3 reading sessions, what you do with that information and how can you let go and how can you get sacred rest in all areas of your life and your body and all of that. So I should probably redo this and put a little asterisk or something in here. The week of Thanksgiving, so the Saturday after Thanksgiving, we won't be doing a Zoom at all, take that week off for Thanksgiving. And then it ends the week before Christmas. So 8 weeks of reading. We'll get through that book and we'll have a good discussion. And if anybody's watching and you don't have the book and you need the link, I mean, it's easily found on Amazon, but if you want the link, let me know and I'll send it to you. Okay. So I'll post that in Living Well and Wise, and I'll send that to you too, Mary. I'll send it to you as a graphic or text or something. So you have that, and anybody else who wants it, let me know. All right. So we've done that. Where are our friends?
I'm not sure I can make it on the 6th.
That's okay. You're always here, Mary. You can take a week off.
I'm going to a wedding, so.
All right. So a couple of things. Last week I talked about how this came out. I subscribed to Chris Wark, and he is the man behind Chris Beat Cancer. And he is doing this whole Square One seminar. I can't remember how many episodes there are, but I bought the whole thing. And then this was one of the side things. So it talks about the dynamic plant duo that is, that destroys the breast cancer cells. So I thought that was interesting. And I took a look at it a little bit more closely after our last discussion. And what it was garlic and lemon. And they are, what did they call them? They called them, not tincture, extracts. So a lemon garlic extract. And it says, according to Dr. Talib, the author of the study, who has been drinking this concoction for many years, the best way to consume garlic lemon extract is in a 3-to-1, 300 grams of lemon and 100 grams of garlic blended in 16 ounces of water and then strained. And I'm not sure we can get conversions about 300 grams and 100 grams. I don't know why they had the 300 grams and 100 grams and then went to 16 ounces. That doesn't make sense, but, and then you blend it and you strain it. And then, this is, he says roughly 3 to 4 large bulbs of garlic and 3 average sized lemons. And he said the formula doesn't have to be precise. So you peel and chop a bulb of garlic and you let it sit for 15 to 20 minutes after chopping to activate beneficial anti-cancer compounds. Clove is really good for you, but it's best raw. So if you do cook it, so if you're just adding garlic to your meals, it's best to chop it and let it sit for a while before you actually cook it. It releases those, the beneficial compounds. So then after you've let it sit there, you put the garlic and the unpeeled lemons together in a blender with 16 ounces of water. So you pretty much put the whole lemon in there. I think I would probably chop it up just so I don't break my blender, but you know, peel seeds, everything. And then you blend the mixture until it's liquefied, but avoid blending it too long, because like if you have a Ninja or a, what's the one I have? That super blender, you know, they can actually get hot and start cooking things, and you don't want that to happen. So you don't want it to get hot. Pour it into some kind of a strainer, cheesecloth or a wire strainer, nut milk straining bag, whatever. It says pantyhose, you can use that. And strain the liquid and squeeze every bit out. And then it's ready for your enjoyment. Now, you're not going to drink that whole amount. It's going to be more than 16 ounces, of course, but you can put it in an airtight glass jar, put it in the fridge. It'll stay fresh for 1 to 2 weeks. And you drink 3 ounces. That's 100 milliliters of lemon garlic extract after a meal 1 to 3 times a day. And it's 5 times more concentrated than the amount of garlic, and 17 times more concentrated than the amount of lemon that was given to mice in a study. I don't know why they mentioned that. So if you weigh 154 pounds, this will give you roughly 285 milligrams of garlic and 857 milligrams of lemon per serving. Anyway, remember, this is not medical advice. This is just an advice. And if you're taking pharmaceutical drugs, make sure that you're able to do that. So, you know, it looks fairly okay. It's going to be a lemon juice. I wonder if you could, like, if it was too strong, if you could mix it with water and dilute it a little bit more just to get it down.
Just drink more than 3 ounces at a time.
Well, you would put 3 ounces of that in. I'm saying put 3 ounces, you know, in your cup, and then add water to thin it out.
I think you could probably do that, because they've said to do 3 times a day, 3 ounces. Right? So yeah, I can't see why you can't do that.
Yeah.
I think that would be, you know, just so you can get it down.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what it's like? I don't know, but it seems like it would be pretty strong if you have however many lemons I said.
You probably start smelling like garlic after a few days too, with that raw garlic.
Maybe.
I mean, not just your breath, I think,
right?
Because
it comes out of your pores.
It does.
But what we do for our health. So.
Yeah.
Tell them it's a new essential oil.
Yeah.
They're going to say, oh no, I don't want that one.
I love it. I love it.
But you will keep the vampires away, right?
see. I forgot to check in with our group, so I'm gonna just do that. Mary, you got any breast cancer stories?
Most people I know that had breast cancer are no longer here.
Oh,
So no,
wow.
I did have cancer scare this week, but wasn't
Did
breast.
you? Oh, wow.
Me, was not breast. Well, this last couple of months here. Yes.
Wow.
So, but I do know of someone who I watch on YouTube.
Mhm,
She had breast cancer and she had a double mastectomy,
mhm.
and she's doing fine now. You know, I think it was 10 or 20 years ago.
Right. And that's what some people do. I have a feeling my friend is not going to pop on, so I will just I will just mention for her, she had such a strong history, family history. And she had cystic breasts that she just decided to have the double mastectomy and not have to worry about it. And Kathy, you found some information that Angelina Jolie had done the same thing.
Right. Well, Angelina Jolie was tested for the gene. I believe she may have had, something in her family history. So she was tested for the BRCA1 and 2 gene that they would normally test anyone for any genetic type mutation. And she did have the BRCA1 gene. So she talked with her doctor and her surgeons, and she did as a prophylactic thing. She had a double mastectomy and breast reconstruction just because she, had that gene and didn't want to have to worry about breast cancer. So that was her choice, to do that. And, that's everybody, everybody's different. So everyone, that's a very extreme thing to do, but everyone's different. And that's, one of the things with us living here in America, freedom of choice for
Right.
your own health issues
now.
or health concerns.
That's so scary and brave at the same time.
Right.
I don't know if I could come to that decision thinking it's
and
maybe, but I guess.
I don't know that we would ever know that unless we were the one in that situation. Because
Absolutely.
we can say all we want now of what we would or wouldn't do, or absolutely not, or oh yeah, definitely. But I think once that's presented to you and, they say, okay, you definitely have these genes.
Right.
You have a 90% risk or whatever the risk is. I have no idea. That's not, written anywhere. But if you were presented it in that way and said, you know what, by the time you're 50, you have a 90% chance of, or by the time you're 60 or whatever, what would you do? We don't know, right? Unless somebody directly said that to us, and then it really hits home. Thinking about it, you're kind of like, oh, well, I don't know for sure. No, I don't want to go through, but we don't know. She did not have any kind of chemo or anything like that because, of course, she didn't have cancer. She just did that because of that gene.
Right.
And now there's just a slew of genes that they will test you for, not just those two, like hereditary, things that can cause breast cancer or other cancers.
Right. That's crazy. There's so much we have to be careful about, which is part of the reason that we have these weekly Saturday Zoom meetings, because you don't know what you don't know. And if we can keep educating ourselves about health and wellness, and for me personally, taking more natural steps to treating or preventing altogether, that's what I like to do. And that's sort of what I've become more passionate about is sharing what I find with other people, because I think we go through life with the blinders on, right? And we look straight ahead and we see what we want to see. We do what we want to do. And we might hear the noise from the sidelines about this or that. But until it affects us personally, a lot of times we don't buy into it. And we also have a very hard time letting go of pleasure, whatever it is. And it could be minor pleasure, like potato chips. It's like, well, there's no studies that show that potato chips cause cancer. There may or may not be, but if that's how you feel about it, nobody getting in your face and talking to you about the hazards of potato chips is going to change your mind. So I think education is the way to go. Just keep, presenting this and throwing it out for the world. And maybe a few people will open their ears, take their blinders off, and start to listen a little bit and make small changes, right? I mean, I'm not perfect.
And when you go into your doctor's office and you ask about those things, whether it's, changing your eating plan or whatever, the doctors are not really educated during medical school about, the effects of your diet on your, other than it increases your cholesterol, but they're not educated to help the patient do like almost like a prophylactic or a thing to help them reduce their risks.
Right.
An eating plan. They don't educate them on eating plans. They don't educate them on, what we use in our homes, any kind of, toxins in our homes. They wait until somebody has something and then they say, take this medication and that'll reduce your symptoms, right? Because having high cholesterol is a symptom of not eating properly, not, watching, different things, or it could be a genetic thing too. I don't know. But so they're just giving you a pill to mask those symptoms, but you still have the issue.
Yeah, they treat the symptoms without figuring out what the cause is.
Right.
And that's why, like, Dick and I are switching over to a functional medicine doctor that we're going to see. It was hard to get us. We wanted to be both and at the same time. So to find that appointment, we couldn't get in until like December 2nd or something like that. I don't remember. But what a functional medicine doctor looks for root cause and helps you to change your behavior and your lifestyle so that that cause of whatever your symptoms are, your inflammation, are gone. The book that I'm reading now, The Protein Aholic, is written by a doctor who says we only got an hour of nutrition in school, and mostly it was about the need or how to give intravenously nutrition to a patient who can't eat anymore, which is not what the normal, the regular person needs. And I even think that, nutritionists are better schooled in nutrition, but I also feel like they follow a path, and not all of them are going to be open to excluding animal products or, it depends on what they were schooled in, and if are they doing education, are they looking at current research and things like that. So I think, I talked with a nutritionist and I learned a few things, but I didn't feel like she got me. She didn't buy into a whole plant
based diet.
Yeah. So
and there's some nutritionists too. Like I know when my brother was in the hospital and he had kidney failure and he had lymphoma and he had heart disease and he had other things going on, before he had passed, but they were having such a hard time. Even the nutritionists and the doctors were having a hard time of what can he eat, what can he eat, and everything. Because, well, number one, the doctors weren't schooled in that. And although the nutritionists were, they were still having a hard time because they were going, well, the benefits of this outweigh the risks of that. So he has to have protein for this, but too much protein is gonna, screw up his kidneys. even more and elevate the kidney enzymes. And they were going back and forth, and it was a real mess. It really was. So the earlier people are educated on these things, even at a well visit, when, people are younger, if they follow, they say, hey, these are the things, what's your family history? Go through that and listen to them and be able to have somebody, and if it's not them, schedule them to see a nutritionist to help them, or a functional medicine doctor or someone to help them to avoid those things in life. And okay, you don't have to be 100% right on, but at least they're educated. The patient is being educated as how to avoid certain things. It's not just don't drink, don't smoke, and exercise. There's so much more involved.
There's so much more. And you have to fine tune your nutrition in order to be able to have some effect. And small changes are good. I mean, we're still on small changes, and I feel like we went backwards a little bit because I had 4 different eating plans, or 3 different eating plans in the house for the past 5 weeks. And so with my daughter here for all meals, I had to have different things in the house, and my husband tended to eat more like her instead of sticking to the whole food plant-based diet. So and I always have to plan for my dad, which I try to plan healthier for, but he requires meat. He doesn't enjoy food. He doesn't like, I'm a foodie. I will eat anything. I mean, in the past, I just love everything. But my dad, he doesn't find pleasure in things that he didn't grow up with, and if it doesn't taste like something his mom or his wife made, he doesn't enjoy it very much. And it's crazy. It's just like, it's really hard to cook for him. And so, I've been trying to take control for Dick and I, but with my daughter here, we got a little bit off. So I told him, everything's getting thrown out. You're going back to being strict. So Janet has joined us. Janet, can you hear me? Are you there?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Sorry I'm late.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We've been covering. We had a few other people who told me they were coming and they're not here. So I'm so glad that you're here. And we'll give you a chance to get caught up. Maybe what we'll do is go to Mandy's story. We'll hear that one first. Mandy, as we said in the beginning, is a friend and a fellow oiler who had breast cancer about 10 years ago, something like that.
10 years ago.
And
in April, it'll be her 10th.
Ah, okay. She couldn't be with us, but she recorded a story. So we will listen to her. And then Janet, you've got a story that is much closer to the surface. I mean, you just finished with
just finished.
Yeah. All right. So let me share the screen, and we'll hear Mandy's story, and then we can talk about that, and you can maybe relate to some of those things. So, all right, here we go. I hope I can find it. Well, that's us. Okay. The first thing we're going to see is us on Facebook, but here, can you see Mandy?
Yep.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. Let's see. Hopefully this all works. Make sure, give me a thumbs up if you hear her. Okay.
Mandy Schneider. I am thrilled to be here talking to you
Can you hear?
During the Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Thank you for having me. I am a almost 10-year breast cancer survivor. In April, it'll be 10 years. In 2012, I was diagnosed with triple negative invasive ductal carcinoma. I was a young mom, 33 years old, with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And although I highly encourage self-examinations, I honestly can't take credit. I found my lump in the shower. I was just showering, right? But please, if you take anything away from this video, do your self-examinations. But I was in the shower and felt a lump. And so I was so lucky, you guys. I was 33 years old. I would have waited at least 7 years maybe longer to have my first mammogram, and I wouldn't be here today. So I'll tell you about my year that I went through. But I feel just so lucky of all the things that I went through. And most importantly, the fact that my tumor was palpable, because had I not felt it, I never would have gone in for testing. So make sure you're staying current on your self-exams and also your mammograms and other tests with your doctors. So here I am, 33, 0 family history, felt this lump. And I don't think if it wouldn't been for my husband encouraging me to go and make an appointment the next day, I probably wouldn't have even made an appointment. I had just finished nursing my daughter maybe 6 months before, and it felt like a hard little pea on the side of my breast. I never in a million years, like I said, with 0 family history, would have thought it would have been cancer. So I'm grateful for him. I made the appointment, I went in, and a lot of times now at the initial appointment, your doctors will be able to do a slew of testing instead of just a normal exam. So I went, I scheduled an appointment. We live in Detroit area in Michigan. So I went to Beaumont, and they have a breast health center. So I was able to get they were able to do a mammogram, and it wasn't scary. It doesn't hurt. Throw modesty out the window. It doesn't matter. We're women. A lot of us have had babies. It doesn't matter. I think there's a stigma about mammograms. It was no big deal. I went then, and they did a biopsy. And I talked to so many women that have just been called back for biopsies. They told me at the time, 80% of the things that they biopsy are benign, nothing to worry about. And I think nowadays they're going to be super cautious with any abnormality. And so after my biopsy and ultrasound, I got my results later, about 4 days later, at the doctor's office, that it was indeed triple negative breast cancer. So as you can imagine, with 2 young kids and a healthy 33-year-old, our whole family, our world was rocked. But I will have to say there was some genetic testing done. Now, this is 10 years ago. So at the time, there were 2 genes that they were looking for, BRCA1 and 2. And I was negative for both of those, which means I wasn't genetically predispositioned to have cancer and even pass it down. Having a daughter who was 1 at the time, that was a huge concern of mine. So we did that, then genetic testing. I will say that maybe about 3 years ago now, I went through a whole panel just in the 7 years since my first genetic testing, how many genes now that they're looking for, which is amazing to see the strides that we're making in breast cancer research and things we're learning every single day. So the genetic testing was negative. So in my case, because I did have triple negative, which means there are 3 hormones that they look for that can feed tumors. And in my case, I'm triple negative to all 3 of them. So I can't take any medicines to kind of stop my body from producing those hormones or lower them. So in my case, I needed chemotherapy and surgery. So there I was with the decision, and I kind of wish the doctors would say, this is what you need to do. This is the surgery you're having, but they did leave it up to me. In terms of the surgery, my options were have a bilateral mastectomy, have just one side done, or do a lumpectomy with radiation. They always go together, and then kind of see where I went. And then after my surgery, they were, first I was going to start chemo and then my surgery. So I had that decision to make. And the reason I needed to have chemotherapy, there's a couple options. You would have it if you are at a certain stage. I was lucky, stage 1, it did not hit my lymph nodes. And the size of your tumor for breast cancer kind of lets you know what stage you're in. So, but the reason I did, so I was good in those 2 areas. I was stage 1 and my tumor was small enough. However, because of this triple negative, because we don't know a lot about it, because it's super fast growing and aggressive, we did the most aggressive treatment. And that's kind of what the protocol is. So that was chemotherapy and surgery. So because of my age, because I didn't want to do a surgery, and then in 10 years, if it came back, take the breast then. I just did both sides, my bilateral mastectomy. So I went through 6 months of chemo. We did super aggressive because of my age, all the drugs at once instead of spreading it out. So my chemo was a little bit faster, but a little bit stronger. And then I followed that with my surgery and reconstruction about September. So it was September, and then January was my reconstruction. And then since then, I have been just focusing on being healthy and making healthy changes. So going through something like that is pretty much indescribable, right? You kind of go in work mode, like anything, like any challenges in your life, any health challenges, anything. You go to your appointments, you take the notes, you show up, you just do because that's what you have to do. And it wasn't until after that I kind of realized, right, what happened and then what's next. So for me, what was next was making some changes. Now, I was healthy, grew up with a Mediterranean diet. I nursed my kids a year. I had got my period late. I had so many factors going for me. So then it was in my hands to make some changes. And it's overwhelming. It is overwhelming. That's why this group is amazing, because it's overwhelming to where to start. I mean, there's diet changes. So limiting the red meat, getting rid of sugar out of my diet, which it's taken me a long time to do that. It's not a switch you could just flip. I've removed gluten and trying to remove dairy because that causes a lot of inflammation in your body. So diet changes are huge. And a lot of times when people are diagnosed, they send you to nutrition because they want you to start making those changes in your diet. I've found essential oils. I try to limit the toxins in our home. So that's one way. And it's also turned me into this whole journey of health and wellness and trying to remove the toxins from our home. So we have switched so many products, and that's also overwhelming. So I would suggest take a room, take a part of your life and start there, because you're never going to start with changing every product you use in your home. You can't, right? And it's a balance. I have young kids who say, Mom, I really want this fruit snack. Do I buy it all the time? Absolutely not. Do they get a treat every once in a while? Yes, they're kids. It's a balance. But as a gatekeeper, I think women usually are, we're bringing these things in our home. So I've met community like this of like-minded women that have helped me make changes, healthy changes in our world, such as oil, such as removing the toxins, such as switching out our products to a non-toxic form, getting rid of dryer sheets, things like that. I think once you start and you dip your toes in the water, you're going to be on this path to just make healthy changes because you've already started. And it just takes one change and then it kind of snowballs into that. But the last thing I will say is if you or you know anyone that is going through breast cancer, there is amazing resources. The American Cancer Society was great. They have a ton of resources online, in person, even things as simple of applying your makeup and having little classes of how to draw on your brows when you lose them from chemo, and how to apply false eyelashes if you need to, because at that time, I didn't feel sick, but I looked sick, and it was scary for my kids who were young. So I wanted to look like me. There's great resources in terms of getting wigs, and there are stores that help you fit for bras and help me shave my hair when my hair was falling out in clumps in the shower, help me take it off so I didn't have to do that. There are amazing resources, and my family and friends were incredible. If the one thing I've taken away from being changed by breast cancer is wanting to be a better person, my friends and family showed up in ways you can't even imagine, from taking my kids, bathing them, returning them fed, cooking, cleaning food, just being there. When I was crying about clothes not fitting right, showing up with a sweatshirt, showing up with just them, a card, just the support system. So if you are going through this, let your friends help you, let your family help you. You do not have to go through it alone. And if you're not, and if you know someone, be there for them, because that is probably the number one important thing that got me through everything with a smile on my face. So I know this is a little long. I apologize, but I I hope you found this informative, and please, I talk to a ton of women. If I can help you or a friend and you want my information, I'm happy to talk to anyone. I talk to a lot of people because once you've been in that club, you want to talk to someone who's been there and who has walked that path and who's been through the mastectomy, wants to know what it's like and what to buy in advance. And it's just this club that you don't want to be in, but if you are, you want to talk to people who've been there. So I thank you for your time today. I hope you found this somewhat informative, and I really appreciate you letting me be part of this this class. Thank you so much, guys.
Wow. You
And
okay?
I remember when talking with Mandy too, she says the very first thing she switched out of personal care products was her deodorant.
Mhm.
So she's been making her own deodorant ever since. And, you know, and
Yeah, it's a big one.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
I know,
That's
33
crazy.
years
And
old.
she's 33, which is how old my daughter is right now. Of course,
Yeah, that's
you
when
know,
she first.
she's at a
found it.
different place, but wow. Wow. So that is a case of a young woman who had no history and just being surprised by it. So it can happen to anyone. As we learned last week, it usually happens to people more often as you progress. There was that list of things that, you know, you check off the box, and Mandy actually said she didn't have a lot of those because, you know, if you get your period when you're before you're 12, or there was a
That
couple of
increases your risk.
yeah. And so, or if you breastfeed, that's supposed to decrease your risk. And she had just finished breastfeeding. So a lot of things, you know, along the way, were against her.
Yeah, and she
But as
didn't,
we get older, that risk increases.
right, right. She didn't have any history of any other cancers. No one in her family had breast cancer, mother, sister, grandparent,
Right.
you know, grandmother, or anyone like that. You know, and if you're Eastern European, you have a little higher incidence for it, I read. And, you know, no one in the family had, like I said, had any history of breast cancer, ovarian cancer, or pancreatic cancer. And then they said, if you have, I was reading another article, the one about Angelina Jolie, it mentioned in there, if you have a close male relative that had breast cancer, that would also
Yeah.
increase your
And
risk.
that's harder because the men don't have it as often, but
And they don't think of, but they can have it too.
right. Well, Janet, you thank you for so much for joining us today. And your story, you went through this last year. So do you want to share some things about your history and your story on this? Oh, wait. You're muted, and I can't unmute you. So you have to hit the mute button on the side.
Is that better?
Yes,
Yep.
now we can hear you.
Got
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think every breast cancer survivor, when they get to the end of their initial journey, really feels kind of lucky. Because you've got all this list of, if I didn't, there wouldn't be this.
Mhm.
Mine started in the middle of COVID, which was such a fun, my mammogram was due in March and I was all set to go, and they called and they canceled because of COVID. I was like, well, this is ridiculous. And I sat in my office and I said to the girls in my office, if I die of breast cancer, sue them. And they all just kind of laughed at me. And one of my bosses, who sits right next to me, had just finished her journey with breast cancer. And she said to me, don't worry about it. It's 1 in 8. We have 8 girls in the office. I'm the one, you're clear. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm not taking that chance. So I waited all summer long. And then in that last October, almost exactly a year ago, they
Wow.
finally called me and said, okay, we'll take you in now. When after my mammogram, they said that the doctor would like you to have an ultrasound. That's what I got. The doctor would like you to have an ultrasound. I was like, okay, he thinks he sees something, but he wants to be sure. So I had to come back about a week later to have the ultrasound, and the ultrasound technician couldn't find anything. So they called the doctor, and he said he pinpointed it for them. And they went right to, they call them quadrants, and they went right to that quadrant and they could see it. It was so tiny that if I had had my mammogram in March, they would not have seen it.
Oh, wow.
It wouldn't have been visible. So I went in for the biopsy, and then everything becomes a blur because it's not moving really fast. It's really not moving as fast as you want it to move because you just want to be done.
Mhm.
You want it gone, you want it to be done. But everything in your mind is moving really fast. And all of a sudden, I felt like the biblical Job. I don't know if any of you have ever heard the story of Job from the Bible, but everything happened to him that could possibly happen to him. About a week after my diagnosis, I was driving to work, never saw deer hit my car, never saw the deer. The only proof that I hit a deer was his fur was in my grill. It totaled my car. About maybe 2-3 weeks after that, my husband lost his job. There goes our health insurance. And just things like that. And finally, I sat down and I said a prayer. I said, you can do anything to me you want to do, but you leave my family alone, which is basically what Job told God.
Mhm. So
now I should preface this with, I have an RN as a daughter, and I have my second daughter was in her final rotation for perfusion, which is the heart pump.
During open heart surgery to keep your blood circulating while they're operating.
Yeah, that's the person that runs the heart machine, the blood machine.
Very important person during the procedure.
Right. She's be third in charge in the OR when you get in there and you have all this stuff. So I had medical people all around me, which my youngest would Google everything. Every time somebody said a symptom, she would Google, and I looked at her and said, you can Google once and that's it, because I don't need you telling me every scare story there is to tell. Well, that's when my luck started getting better. I went into work the day after my husband lost his job, and they said, we're putting you on our insurance. I said, no, we're okay for a month. We've decided we're going to Cobra out for a month. We're okay. On December 4th, the day of my surgery, my husband started a brand new job with insurance that cost us $50 a week for family. And it's good insurance. So I had my surgery, which you think, okay, I'm just going in to have the lump removed, because we had chosen a lumpectomy. I had all the different options also, but we had chosen a lumpectomy, or I had chosen a lumpectomy, but everybody else in my family said, just have it cut off. And the surgeon there, she was very, very good, very experienced, but she was brand new to the hospital. A week before, I wouldn't have had her. But they don't tell you about the testing. My surgery was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I had to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't figure out why. Because they take you to this wonderful little room, and there was really no pain. I mean, they were very good about pain management. But they stick what looks like a clothes hanger. It's narrower than a clothes hanger, but they have to get it into the tumor so the surgeon can find the tumor, because she's looking through a lot of fatty cells. And then they have to inject you with some dye to discover which lymph nodes your breast drains, so they know where to look. So I had all that. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. But then they came in and they took me for the surgery. They called my husband after the surgery and said, we got it all. There's no lymph involvement. We got it all. So just radiation and she'll be fine. Well, they have a test now. It's called an oncotype test. And they send it off to this company in California. And what this test tells you are your percentage chances of recurrence. So while I had just been planning for radiation, and they started my radiation, I had surgery December 4th. They started my radiation in February 1st. While I was, just planning on radiation, all of a sudden this test comes back, and it actually came back on my last day of radiation that said, you have a 33% chance of recurrence. And my oncologist said, that's too high. We're going to put you through preventative chemo. And I had the choice. I could have said no. And there were many days I was going to say no. And my family was like, you're not going to say no, you're going to do it. And what really got me is I had a 4-year-old grandson and a 1-year-old granddaughter. And my daughter, who's a nurse, looked at me and said, you could die. One little cell could have got out and it could start this all over again. And you got these beautiful little kids here. And that's what it took. So I went through, they wanted me to, I finished radiation, and they wanted me to wait about 5 or 6 weeks to start chemo. And I said, no, if I'm going to do chemo, we're going to do it right away, because I need to travel in May to my daughter's graduation from perfusion school. And they weren't real happy about it, but of course, it was my choice. Well, what a mistake. Don't ever do that. The first week of my chemo, I never had any side effects from radiation until the first week of my chemo. And I got this big red radiation burn all over my chest. And then the blisters started forming, and I was a complete mess. Not just from the chemo, but from the radiation, and not being healed from the radiation. And it just all went backwards for me after that. But I had family around. My husband, I found out after 35 years why I married my husband. He was an absolute saint, an angel, and he's a pretty tough person usually. He would, if I wanted something, he would jump up, he would get it for me. He'd ask me 4,000 times a day, are you okay? I basically lived on, I didn't get sick. My stomach wasn't upset or anything like that from the chemo, but you just don't feel like eating. You don't feel like living. You don't feel like doing anything. If I lived on chocolate milk, and if my next sip was going to make the chocolate milk run out, he was gone to the store to get the chocolate milk. So, and while all this is going on, they wouldn't allow me to, like, I had just started using the Ninjixia.
Ninja Red. The Ninja Red.
And I had to stop using that. I had ordered vitamins and all that kind of thing, and I had to stop using them because cancer is a fast growing cell. And all these things all these supplements that you can take are to aid fast growing cells. So they wouldn't let me do any of it. So I made it through the end of April. My mother died April 13th. So that was like, we had the funeral 2 days before my last chemo treatment. But we made it through. I would never want to do it again. And I was a lucky one. I feel very, very lucky. This is how fast your hair grows in 6 months. I was bald as a billiard. They've now are allowing me to put things back into my diet, vitamins and supplements, and encouraging me for that kind of thing. And I've done some. I've got 3 or 4 that I've started trying to do it slow, so I to make sure I don't have any reactions. I'm on a hormone blocker, and I couldn't tell you if I know I'm not triple negative or triple. I couldn't tell you what I was, because they said you have invasive ductal carcinoma, and my brain stopped. To me, I had cancer, and that was it. I don't care what kind it is. And so I'm a huge proponent of mammograms, because I think that's where it needs to be found. I drive my family nuts the first, not even the 1st of October, the end of September. I have a large family. My mother had 9 brothers. And I was after each and every one of my female cousins to get their mammogram, schedule their mammogram. And if they were afraid to go alone, I would go to them and hold their hand. I have had 1 follow-up mammogram, and I think I have to have them every 6 months. I mean, this is all so new that I'm not 100% sure. And every doctor we've discovered, because I've talked to different people, every doctor we've discovered has a different regimen in the way he handles things, or they handle things. I'm at 3 months out for appointments right now, and I'm told after December I'll be 6 months out and then gradually go to a year, which is normal. So and the big thing for us, Bill and I, is paying it forward. So many people talked to us and answered questions for us and did for us. We didn't need a lot of doing because I had Bill and I had the girls here, but just talking, and sometimes it's not even talking about cancer, it's being there, listening. These people are scared to death. It's a scary situation.
Good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? Okay. How exciting is this? I'm Joanne Jones. I'm the campus officer at PCOM South Georgia. And on behalf,
I have no idea why that happened. Sorry. I was like, who's making all that noise? It was,
Yeah.
I think it was something that came on after Mandy's, it was like on YouTube or something. I don't know, but sorry. I'm sorry.
And my biggest thing, and the biggest thing I learned from all of this was they never tell you everything. And now people they're very free and open about it. My neighbor, who's been my neighbor for my entire life, I couldn't tell her. She was like somewhere across between a mother and a big sister. And I just couldn't tell her. So my daughter went and told her, and she came running over to my house. She said, "Now you're being stupid." And she whipped up her shirt, whipped up her bra and said, "See my scar?" I said, "When did you have it?" You just don't know how many people are out there that really have. And if you don't talk about it and don't open up about it, people are lost. You're so alone when you get that phone call that says invasive ductal carcinoma that you're just lost. And then all of a sudden I had people around me that, we're here to help. We're here to help. We're here to help. And so that Bill and he just found out that one of his friends from his childhood has it. And the first thing he said to her was, "We're here for you. If you need anything, you let us know." So that's kind of my experience, day to day. It was day in, day out, one day at a time. And now we're a little bit past the one day at a time, and I feel fantastic.
You can hug those grandbabies.
Oh, the hardest part was, I decided I had chemo and my hair wasn't falling out yet. It had been about 2 weeks, and I decided I was not going to let it beat me. I was going to beat it. And my daughter's boyfriend came with his clippers and clipped me bald. Well, the first time the grandbaby saw grandma with no hair, it was a little freaky. So my daughter, who's a nurse, said to my grandson, when he was asking what happened to grandma's hair, and she said, "Well, grandma had surgery and grandma was sick, and the medicine that grandma has to take to get better makes her hair fall out." And he was kind of like, whoa. But, he got used to it after a while. And I always had something on my head. It was the middle of winter, and I got so cold. Just my head would be cold. And my husband would go upstairs and my head would be under the covers. I was so cold. But they got used to it, and they got used to, my grandson is a very caring little guy, and he would come and he would just sit next to grandma and hold grandma's hand. Or they would climb up on my lap and just sit on my lap. So they were good about it. They didn't understand. And when they're old enough, we'll tell them. but you know, my message was especially to my family, okay, here it is. I'm the first one in the family to ever have this. Let's make sure nobody else has to go through anything. You know, let's take the precautions that are so simple. They take what, 15, 20 minutes at the most. And you know, because I don't ever want anybody else to have to go through it. And Bill and I talk all the time, and he said to me, if I had known chemo was going to do that to you, I wouldn't have made you go through it. Because I did have it. I was lucky. I had a choice for chemo. And he just said, you know, I was, you know, 4 months, I'm a totally different person during those, because I can't get up, I can't clean, I can't, you know, you just can't. One day I got up out of my chair to go take a shower 3 different times, went upstairs to get in the shower and fell asleep on the bed. So, you know, if anybody's got any questions, anybody needs help, you know, I don't want to just say if anybody needs their hand held, I'll handheld.
Well, God bless you, Jen, and thank you for sharing that story. That's
Thank you, Jen.
incredible. One other thing, you weren't here last week, but we talked a lot about thermography as another means of early detection, and it's kind of the precursor to mammograms, and it's done with thermal photography. And what this can show is that if there's inflammation in the body, and it actually can detect that inflammation way before any lump shows up. You know, and then the next step would be, you could get a mammogram, but the mammogram just tells you there's something there. It's the ultrasound and
Right.
beyond the biopsies that go further. So Sherry, who was our guest speaker last week, talked about how she likes to have thermography and then go right to ultrasound if there's something that shows up. That mammograms just kind of show you if there's a lump, but in your case, it seems like God was watching out for you, because
Yep.
yeah, you would have got your mammogram in March and it wouldn't have shown up. And then it would have been another year before anything would show up, and then it would have been larger. So.
And had I not had an experienced doctor, they wouldn't have seen it. I mean, when mammogram technician and 2 ultrasound techs can't find it. I mean, I went to the biopsy, and they, of course, you know, they have the ultrasound tech there. She couldn't find it at the time of the biopsy till the doctor came in. So had I not had an experience, I mean, things just kind of fell in line. Yeah, I had a lot of nasty things happen along the line, and I just felt like I was being tested, but I got lucky.
Yeah, it's always
step
for a
along the
reason.
line.
It's for a reason. And so you have this story to share with people, and you're going to help somebody in a big way, I'm sure, because of this story, because of what you've gone through.
Yep.
Someone else is probably going to be saved. You're going to, you know, it's not for nothing that you went through all of
Right.
it. I'm sure of it.
It's an
That's how God
experience I don't
works.
wish on anybody, but we're going to do the best with what we were given.
Wow.
And the funny thing, I'll say this to you, to the girls, and Bill's sitting here listening to me. The funny thing is you don't realize radiation will shrink you. You don't think about that. So when I take my clothes off, I have 2 different size, completely different size and texture breasts. One is smaller. Bill's laughing because he knows he's seen. One is dense, and the other is what my girls would call an African titty. It just, you know, it just kind of hangs there. So, I mean, there's just so many things, so many little things that they don't think to tell you, and you don't find out until afterwards or while you're going through it. And, you know, I've always, especially with my girls, I've always been forewarned is better. You know, if you know that something, you like when you take your kid for a shot, to have a shot, I would say to them, yes, it's going to hurt. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt for 60 seconds. It's over. And then you won't get that disease. And that disease could kill you. So, I mean, you know, I've always been a realist. I've always been try to forewarn, and somewhere in the process, I kind of got lost because I wasn't forewarned. The things that nobody talks about.
Whew, that's a lot to think about, and I'm gonna go schedule my thermography. And, get
If
that
you need
taken
me to
care
come
of.
hold your hand, I will come hold your hand.
You want to come to Florida? Go on down. Well, we are out of time for today. I want to plug our next, I lost the book. Here it is. For the next 8 weeks, actually it's 9 weeks because we're skipping Thanksgiving week. We're going to be reading this book, Sacred Rest by Sandra Dalton Smith. And basically the premise behind this book is that getting good sleep is not enough. We have to be rested in all areas of our life, our emotional, mental, spiritual. There's 8 different areas besides, well, 7 besides physical. And Kathy and I've been trying to read this book for over a year. And we've gotten so far, I'm like, maybe a third of the way through. I'm going to start it over again. And so I will post the reading schedule in Living Well and Wise, and hopefully people will join. And next week, we're going to talk about chapters 1 and 2 together. So this is easily accessible on Amazon. And it's an easy read, but I think it can be really helpful. And so we're doing it as a book club, a book read. And so I will post the schedule, the reading schedule, and we'll see you next week to talk about the first 2 chapters. So again, thank you so much, Janet, for joining us. I really
Not a
appreciate
problem.
you sharing your story. Very meaningful and very humbling and effective. And thank you for all of that. All right, you guys have a great week. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll see you next week, hopefully.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Oh, that's true.
Thank you, Janet, for joining us. Thank you, Mary. And thanks to Mandy as well.
Yes, thank you, Mandy.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.